Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Accounting Power Setup webinar. My name is Lenny Baudelaire, and I am a Product Implementation Specialist here at AccountantsWorld, and I appreciate you taking the time out today to join this webinar. So let's get started. The screen that I'm in is what we call your firm administrative page. Here, when you log in through AccountantsOffice.com or your website that you may have with us, it brings you to this page where the list of applications that you have with us are listed here on the left-hand side. Okay. We also have a one common client database under the setup, and that's where I'm going to start today's session. So, to get started with our programs, specifically Accounting Power, when you log in and are at this screen and hit Setup, okay, on the top left you would see Client Setup, Firm Setup, and Staff Setup, and then Miscellaneous, okay, with support activity. And if you bought our Power Practice system, one of the applications that we offer is to promote your firm on the directory listing that we offer, so you can generate new business that way as well. But we're starting off with the firm and the staff setup. Okay, when we click on staff setup, okay, all right, and hit the add button on the top right, here is where you would enter your staff's information so they can log on with their own username and password. Now the password will be computer generated and emailed to your staff member, okay, and your staff then could change that password to something that they would remember when they get that email. So you're entering the data. Anything that's in red must be entered, and then once done, on the top right, hit the save button and then hit add to enter your next employee. Now, before we leave this screen, of course, though, there are a few pointers I like to let you know about, and that's one, the rights section here, administrator rights and webmaster rights. Okay, the difference really between the two is that if you allow an employee to have administrator rights, they can add and delete clients within the system and have access to the billing information between your firm and our company. That's really the only difference between the administrative rights and the webmaster rights. Webmaster rights, they can just see the clients that are in there, work with the clients that you deem that that you want them to work with, and that's it. Also down here, application access. All right. When you're entering your employee, you can give them access to all of the programs that you have with us, or just specific programs that you'd want them to use. Now, I go into this section first only because when you go back into client and client setup, and it's the same process, client setup on the top right, hit the add button, you're entering your client's basic demographic information. So here now, anything in red must be entered, but the first thing that that we're asking is for something called a client code. This is up to 10 characters in length, alpha or numeric, but no special symbols such as ampersand, spaces, dashes. Okay? And the client code serves dual purposes. one, because this is web-based and the ability to collaborate with your client is available to you. It is your client's username when they log into the system. If you're doing after the fact write-up and you're not having clients access the program, it just makes this client different than the next client that you enter into the system. So it differentiates those clients within the system. As I scroll down here, though, I do want to point out, if you are going to take advantage of offering the bookkeeping module to your clients, in order to give them access, there is a three-step process. The first one is in this section here, where you're going to check the box to enable client login. In order to do that, it's explained here, is that you must enter your client's email address in this screen here. Your next option is to make this particular client that you're setting up confidential to only the true administrator. That is the person who purchased the application, not the employee who you made an administrator, but the person who bought the application. So when you log in, if you check this box and you're the true administrator, you are the only one who will be able to see that client when you log in. Now again, it's used mostly in payroll if you decided to do your own firm's live payroll processing through Payroll Relief. But if you are doing your own set of books and you don't want any of your staff members to have the ability to click onto it, you can make that confidential. This last button, limit access for this client to following signed staff, is one of the reasons why I went into staff setup first. Should you want to delegate the workload and have staff only have access to certain clients, as you're setting up the client and you check this box to limit access, the list of your staff will appear here, where you simply go in and check as many staff members that you want to have access to this particular client. Now, if you do not check this box off, okay, your staff will be able to see all of the clients that you have within your organization. So now, once all of this is set up, you would hit the Save button on the top right. And that's generally how you would do it for all programs. And when you're in any screen, before you leave, you would hit the Save button before you leave that screen. Otherwise, you will get a reminder. Okay. Client management. Again, I go here because the process I showed you is setting up a client one by one. Should you want to bring in more clients at a pop of 150 at a time, you have that capability. Through a template, an Excel template that we offer within the program in the format that we need, that will ask you to fill in that information and then hit upload and bring in 150 clients into the system in one shot. Now we say 150 only because if there's more than that, there's a possibility that there could be, because it may take a few moments here, that the system, your computer shuts down with no activity, say, or whatever, and that won't allow that to occur without possibly an error. So we said to limit you to 150. However, the programs that you have with us are for unlimited number of clients. So this is just to bring it in if you didn't want to do it one at a time. Okay? Now, when you're done entering this information, depending on the browser you're using and such, we have a yellow-orange tab here on the right-hand side, which will then allow you to access any of the other programs that you'd like to access. I'm just going back to the top to this house icon, which would bring me back to the portal page, because I think it's important that while you're listening to me here, and I'm going to be covering quite a bit, okay, that you know where to go back to find what I'm saying, so that way if you're not ready to do any implementation until after the 15th of October, and you may forget certain things, on the top right, there's an icon of a camera, and if clicked on, will provide you with short videos on how to enter or how to set up clients and staff. So it'll go over what I just went through. And again, it's on the top right on the icon of a camera. So now we've set up clients or prospects for clients for the use of what programs we want to use. So we're going to go into Accounting Power now. And when we go into Accounting Power, the Firm tab will be highlighted for you. And when you bring the mouse over to the Firm tab, we'd like you to go in and click on Client Management. When we click on Client Management, on the top right, you're going to see a button for Sign Up Client. Click on it. A window will appear with a drop-down of all of the clients that you just entered on that previous page that we were on in the setup screen for clients. So when I'm here and I'm entering or looking for a specific client, if I start typing a letter for that name of that client, I'm going to type M. It'll bring me to that section where I can now choose what client I want to have the use in Accounting Power with. Once I highlight that name and it's highlighted here, I simply click OK. Now I have a client set up and it's called Mike Test right now. All right, and I know which client I'm in because on the top right it will appear. But when you click on that window, okay, and click OK, the program will bring you to Company and Company Setup. Here, we ask you to fill out information, but specifically the entity type of this particular client. There's a pull-down window, so you could choose if it's a Corp, S-Corp, Partnership, LLC, nonprofit, okay? And the book year end. Now, in the book year end, okay, your date here will be 12/31/2015, which means that you're going to bring in data from your program that you had previously before purchasing Accounting Power into Accounting Power. So transactions from 2015 on you're allowed to bring in if you left that date of 12/31/2015 in there. Should you want to bring in prior year's transactions so you could do comparative financial statements the first year of using Accounting Power, you could click on that date where a calendar will appear, and with a pull-down menu, make that change. So I could now say December 2014 and the 31st. And now, once I hit save, that 12/31/2014 date in this field would give me the ability to bring over 2014 and 2015 data. Now, I do want to let you know that you can bring in more of the prior years if you wish, but just so you're aware, our system allows you to have 3 years worth of data open simultaneously. And then after 3 years, in order to access a 4th year, you would need to close out the year of the earliest date. And when you're trying to print financials or statements with a comparative, you could print up to 4 years worth of data. After that, it just doesn't fit on the page. So what we suggest is that because you're just starting out, you want to get familiar, you want that comparative information, just put in prior and current year, and then start working with the program. And then if you want to put in more, go back to 2013, 12. Like I said, you can do that. Just make that date bring it in from 2012, 13, 14. But before you could do 15, you would have to close out 12. Okay? And then remember also hit save before you leave the screen. Here, this little verbiage is letting you know what I just told you about having prior years open, etc. Now, if you were going to start entering data from scratch, again, we have clients coming over from all different systems, even manually or Excel. You're simply going to go from the left-hand side, from company to chart of accounts, all right, to banking information, etc., and then from top to bottom, and then when you're done, from left to right. But we're here to try to save you time. So under integration, so when you're done with that company and the company setup, you're now going to go into integration, and depending on what program you're coming from, okay, you're going to either bring it in through Excel. We have a link that ties you right into QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. So because the QuickBooks has the market share out there, okay, I'm going to be spending more time with QuickBooks Desktop than I am with other methods here. But I like to go into Excel first and let you know that regardless of what system you're bringing in from, the same type of information is what's brought over. So we have the chart of accounts, beginning balances, products, customers, vendor information, employee information, departments, and then transactions. You're simply going to just pull down the source file and choose what program you're coming from. So again, if you're coming from QuickBooks and you want to do it through Excel, you can. If you're coming from Thomson Reuters, you have a way of doing it through Excel here. Any other program would be generic if it's not one of these listed here. Now, when you list a particular source file, one of the things we need is in that Excel format is to match what we have here on the top right under templates. So if you just give me a moment and have me open up this is the format that is needed when you're bringing the data out of your current program, say, or your older program into Excel to bring into Accounting Power. Just want to cancel this, close that. It'll pop up momentarily. Okay, and here you have now at the bottom items for chart of accounts, balances, employees. And as long as you have the headings on the top, very top line, and your data in this format without any spaces, you would need to save each file separately onto your desktop or anywhere on your hard drive that you're going to know where it's at. Once you save that information, okay, I'm just going to minimize, you're then simply going to check the box for chart of accounts, hit import on the top right, and then browse and retrieve where you have that file. Once you open that file, it will be attached here where you simply click OK and then momentarily get successfully migrated. Okay, once you're done, uncheck the accounts and then go to beginning balances and do that same procedure until you're finished. When it comes to transactions, when you bring over transactions, which could be a large amount of data, what we ask you to do is when you're exporting it into Excel, do it at a year's time frame. So if you're bringing over prior year and current year information, I'd like you to have two files set up. One file is going to be from January 1st, 2014 to December 31st, 2014. And then the next file, January 1st of 2015 to whatever period you may have data up to. So you may have it up till October 31st or September 30th. You bring that in, put in the to and from dates, hit import, and then do that same procedure until you get imported successfully. Now, if you're using QuickBooks and you're using Excel, okay, and you're bringing over transactions, I have a QuickBooks program opened here, and the reason why I'm opening in this is because in order for us to bring the transactions into the appropriate fields, we use account number codes. Now, QuickBooks, as you may be aware, offers you the ability to use account codes or just descriptions. So if this client of yours is just having descriptions, we ask you then to go to Edit, Preferences, Accounting, Company Preferences, and check the box to use account numbers and click OK. Okay? What then should happen is under List, okay, Chart of Accounts, you should see all of your descriptions in your Chart of Accounts with an account number assigned next to it. Now, if you don't see an account number next to it, before you could export it to Excel, we would need you to right-click and add, okay, that account number to the field and hit Save and Close. Now, depending on the size of your Chart of Accounts, this may be time-consuming to enter all of your codes here, okay? When we get to the application that we use, which is called Accounting Link, which is a bridging program that brings data over, we have the ability to bring the account codes from a standard chart of account, industry-specific, into QuickBooks, and then bring your account code and your description into Accounting Power. Okay? I'm not going to actually close out right now. I still need this open. So that is if you're now going to be using Excel to bring the data over. Okay? Let's go into QuickBooks Online. Same process, making sure you have account numbers in QuickBooks Online, but for QuickBooks Online, you're going to see this Connect to QuickBooks Online, and it's simply going to click on it and open up or give you the opportunity to log into QuickBooks Online to the same client that you have now opened in Accounting Power to bring that data over, and it'll simply give you the same options of bringing over what you saw in Excel. Okay? And then finally, QuickBooks PC. And again, most firms are still on the PC on QuickBooks and not liking so much, at least what we hear, the QuickBooks Online version. But because they do have that market share, we've created an API called Accounting Link, and you would click on this button to install it onto your computer, onto each computer if you're having staff members work with the program. It's a quick install, and once it opens up or installs, I now have it on my system. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, it's going to ask you for your firm code, username, and password. It's the same information that you're using when you logged on to that portal. So I'm just going to type in my password and click OK. Now once it remembers it, you're only going to be entering your password. Now this screen here is the first screen that comes up, and it's two lines. One's a gray shaded area where Accounting Link is looking for the QuickBooks desktop program opened on your local drive. Again, that's very important, your local drive. So if you have QuickBooks loaded onto your server and not on your local, you would need to install it with the client data on your local drive. Okay? And then the second line would be where you're giving the name of the client that you have listed with us. So what's going to happen now is my QuickBooks program is blinking here at the bottom, and a no certificate will appear once Accounting Link is opened. And what this is doing is it's QuickBooks' way of letting you know that something is trying to get into it. So we think it's important that you know about this. So we ask you to check off the box, yes, prompt me each time. And when you click on Continue, another box will open. Just simply hit Done. And you'll notice that in a moment, the name of the client that I had opened in QuickBooks is now in this gray shaded area. My next step, click on this blue link to show the client list and look for the client that we just set up in Accounting Power. Now, again, I'm not going through this whole process, but just say it was, let's see if we could go here, Mike's Test, okay? What it does bring up is not the name of the client, but the client code that I've set up for this Mike Test client that I'm working on. And I simply hit Next, and it now gives me all of the options that I would have if I was doing it through Excel. But instead of doing one at a time, I could check all of the boxes and then hit Upload. And then at the bottom here, you'll see the process, and it'll say successfully done or migrated when you're finished with that task. Now, because I already have a chart of accounts in Mike's Test, this button here for Or Select is grayed out. But if I did not have a chart of accounts set up in there already, okay, this would have a pull-down menu for industry-specific standard chart of accounts that I was talking about earlier. You're going to choose that industry and hit Apply. You would not check any of these boxes. You would just work here, hit Apply, and what the system will do is it will bring a set of chart of account codes into QuickBooks and match it up to your descriptions. And then take both of that data and bring it into Accounting Power. When it's completed, you would then go in and check off all of these other boxes and then hit Upload. And then the process is done in bringing over that data. So now, once the data is brought over, okay, you're ready to start working with the program. But I suggest that you want to make sure that everything is correct. So when you go into Company and Checklist, what you would see are items that were brought over with a green checkbox, and then numbers next to certain items that indicate the number of transactions that came in for that particular section. And anything in blue is a drill down capability for you to go right to that specific section. But notice that there are other things that may not be checked off, which means that you may want to enter that type of information. So what I usually just let people know is that start with Company, go to Accounts, and check to make sure your chart of accounts is correct. It will be, it should be, okay? But if you needed to make any adjustments, okay, you could simply click on the Add button on the right-hand side here and enter an account, all right? Or you could simply click on an account, and as long as there's no transactions related to that account, you could delete it from the system, okay? So you can customize the chart of accounts and then also have an option to copy it from one client to another if you're in a kind of a niche market that you work with a lot of doctors, say. So you have that capability as well. After you check the chart of accounts, on the top right, there's a box for beginning balances, and you should see the beginning balances. Now, I'm just going to quickly just go in and select another client that has more data in it. So here, I could go into just typing in client, and again, you know that you're in that client because it's listed on the top right, all right? And when I go into Company and Accounts, like I said, I could see beginning balances to make sure that they're all entered correctly and they're totaling the same amount. Okay. And I'm going straight up and down, entering everything. Now, when it comes to banks and credit cards, okay, if you're using QuickBooks and the accounting link, it brings some of that data over. I could simply go in and go and hit the name of the bank there, or if not, go to the Add button on the top right. Here, you're going in to set up bank feeds that could save you a tremendous amount of time if you're doing write-up work. But again, if you're having your clients use the bookkeeping module to write checks and you want to do your bank reconciliations, you need to set up banking information. Now, depending on how you're going to be using the program, if you're having your client work with the system or you're doing full client accounting services and paying their bills on their behalf, we work off of any QuickBooks compatible check stock, pre-printed or blank. If it is blank check stock, we need you to enter the routing number and the account number. Now, after you save it, the account number does get truncated by the system for security purposes. But you need to enter the routing number, account number, and the start of the next check number that's going to be used. If you're not using it for collaboration, but for after the fact, then this is not necessary to put in. However, you still need to go in because if you're going to be doing bank reconciliations, you need to go in and change the date that is listed here. Now, what happens here is that because I went in and I said to set up the company for 2014 and to bring over 2014 and 2015 data, it gives me the date of 2014. And I'm sure you've done the bank recs for all of 2014 already. So you would go to change the date and put in the first month, the first day of that month, and possibly the first year you want to do your first bank reconciliation within Accounting Power for the bank listed over here. Okay? And then when you're done, hit the Save button on the top right, and then go in and add another bank. Now, again, you may have seen this on your demonstration when your PDC went in and showed you a demo of the application. But again, another time-saving feature we have built in here at no additional cost is this bank feed capability. And when you click on bank feed, okay, you have the ability to send an email to your client that will give them a link to set up their own username and password to their bank, so that way that information is not known by you. Some firms or some accountants don't want that. They feel it's an extra liability, and they just don't want to do that. Even though you're the trusted advisor and you're not going to do anything with it, again, some feel they don't want it. You have the ability here to send out that email, and they can do it. If you do have their account information, or you're working on your own, or you wanted to see what they would see, if you click Register Now and click OK, it's going to bring up the search capability that your clients would see when they click on the link that they get. Now, as I start typing in the name of a bank, a pull-down menu will appear, and I happen to use Astoria Federal Savings. And here again now, I would be able to log in without my accountant knowing what my username and password is. So again, very easy to set up. And then once the banks are set up by you and the client does their part, if you go into List, you will see a link already established with the bank and the bank that you've set up. And then as you start using this application, information will be available for you to look at as to, like you can see, last time I imported it, last time I did a sync, if I needed to refresh it for some reason, or if my client updated their password without letting me know, I could update the credentials within the system as well. So again, a big time saver for you. Okay, when you're done with that, again, simply just going from top to bottom. Now, If you're going to allow the clients having access to the program, remember that I told you it was a three-step process. The first one was under the setup screen. The next one is under firm client management, where you see all of your clients that you have in here, and then a bookkeeping column. Now, if it's blank, it means that it doesn't have bookkeeping set up. You simply check the box, and the subscribe button will turn dark blue, where you check off the box that you want the bookkeeping module and click OK. Now, I'm not, but what will happen is your screen will refresh, and then yes will appear under the bookkeeping module. Should you decide afterwards that you don't want the client to have access to it, and there is a yes, you could click on the select button and hit unsubscribe on the top right. And then they won't have access any longer to the bookkeeping module. But once the bookkeeping module is there, when you go under sales or expenses, right now if you went in, you only see vendors under expenses and customers under sales. But if you check that bookkeeping module, all of these other features are now available for your client to use, or for you to use if you're doing full bookkeeping work for your client. And that's where now we come back to company and permissions. This is the final step. You will check off the box to allow client access, and then choose what you want your clients to have access to. Anything that's checked, when the client logs in, they only see their information and only parts of the program that you've given them access to. This will help eliminate a lot of the client errors that we hear so much about from clients who are using different over-the-counter types of programs. And unique in the industry is that we work exclusively with accountants, and because of you having control of the client accounting engagement, it reduces unnecessary, possibly unbillable time that you spend now fixing errors. Okay? Going further, okay, when we're done checking, as we go in and we look at customers, or in this case, let's go to vendors, we brought in a list of vendors. We saw a number next to the list of vendors. We think that's right, but if you wanted to, on the top right, go to list and see the list of vendors that were brought over. Simply click on anything in blue. Remember, blue is a drill down capability to get more information. And here, you can enter information if needed, all right, and or 1099 information if needed. And then again, hit save when you're done. Then hitting the down arrow key or the greater sign, you can get to the next vendor, next vendor, next vendor. Now, the reason why I go into vendors here is because, again, doing this for some time and talking with existing customers now, they say they have a lot of vendors coming over, but a lot of them are inactive. They really don't even do business anymore with my client. Again, if there are no transactions related to this vendor and you want to clean that up, at the bottom right of the page, we have a delete button. And as long as it's dark blue, you can delete that vendor from the system, cleaning up the system for yourself and for your clients should you be giving them access. Next thing is to check to make sure the transactions came in correct. So you have options. You could go to trial balance and trial balance review. I'm not going to save anything here. Okay, and in this section, which also is unique in our system, is that we use a trial balance. Again, our programs are geared for the accounting professional, not the end user. So we do have a trial balance system. And you have drill down capabilities to see what makes up those numbers that were brought over and to make sure that it's correct. Now, if you wanted to, you could also go into financials and either print financials or view financials. If you're coming from QuickBooks, again, view financials is something you might be familiar with, all right? And you're picking income statement or balance sheet, single year, comparative, or a specific date range, or what period you want to see. You could go for year-end 2014. You could go for 6/30/2015. All right, just to make sure that the transactions that came over are correct. Once you pick that date range, you hit view, and now you see your income statement again with pull down or drill down capabilities to the source document or the transactions that make up that number. So you have that capability. You also have the capability to go in and print financials. Choose a period, okay, go to accounts, and just choose balance sheet and income statement. No reason to do comparative, but, you know, basically you could do year to date or maybe current and year to date and hit print. Okay, now if you hit print and you don't see this bubble, you may have a pop-up blocker. So please allow us in, and when it comes open, you now have the ability to review the balance sheet and income statement. I chose other options here, but you can now view the numbers to make sure that it's correct from what you produced in your prior program. Again, once that's done, then you could go on and work with the program and start entering new information. Now, said a lot here, so what do you have as far as references should you need it? Well, whenever you're in any page, okay, you have on the top right an icon of a question mark, and when clicked on, it's page sensitive help. Okay, it's very useful and could answer the questions that you may have. You also have technical support. By clicking on the bubble icon, all right, you could give us a call and speak with technical support, okay, and they'll answer any of your questions. Now, I'm also inviting you to call me if you need any assistance in this data migration. All right, this is my name again, Lenny Bottolari. This is my email address that you're looking at, lbottolari@accountantsworld.com. And then the same toll-free number, but my extension is 221. And I'd be more than happy to assist you or bring you to the right party who can assist you if you need any assistance. Now, also, under resources, and here as well, you see training videos. So under resources and training, we have short videos on every section of the application. I would suggest clicking on basic setup, okay, and looking at a nice short video there. But for implementation or integration tools and techniques, you have that available with 4 minutes to see how to work that as well. Okay. And then finally, under resources and supporting docs, if you're coming over from Thomson Reuters or from QuickBooks, we have in here the step-by-step instructions that I just went through now during this webinar. So again, if you're going to be doing this now and you have questions, you have information here. If you're going to do it afterwards, you have information here. If you're going to have a staff member do this, you could have information available on how to do what needed to be done in bringing data and getting you set up using Accounting Power very seamlessly and easily, and having that strong foundation that you would need to continue with successfully using the application. So again, if anybody has any questions on this call, you have our telephone number or support link within the program to call and speak with us or send us an email with your questions. If the questions are simplistic in nature, you will receive an email response back. If it's a complex, you will get a phone call from our technical support department. So I hope this was useful for everybody that attended. Before we leave, I'd like to just